The Dark Knight trilogy was received incredibly well upon the initial release of each film, but as time passes and we get further and further removed from the iconic Christopher Nolan trilogy, I've seen a great uptick in people being critical of some of these films, and especially of Christian Bale's performance as Batman. And while I understand the criticism to a certain extent, I think some of us have forgotten just how good Christian Bale was as the Caped Crusader. Before I dive into why I think Christian Bale's take on the character is pretty good, I'm going to address the biggest grievance people have with his performance, and that is the Batman voice. And yes, it is pretty awful. He absolutely sounds like a chain smoker who huffs down multiple packs of cigarettes a day. It reeks of an actor trying too hard to sound badass, and is far inferior to Michael Keaton's Batman voice. But I don't think it's really that big of a deal. We can still understand him, at least most of the time, and he does have some incredible aura off of the fact that he easily has the best Batman suits. Respect to Michael Keaton. In fact, I made an entire video about why I think Keaton is the best Batman, and I still stand on that opinion. But his Batman suit is kind of ridiculous for functionality purposes. Like, yes, it looks cool, but not being able to move your neck would certainly hamper your ability to fight crime. I guess what I'm trying to say is that every Batman has at least one shortcoming. For Bale, it's his Batman voice, but this one shortcoming doesn't mean that he wasn't still a great Batman in my humble opinion. Now, one of my favorite aspects of Bale's portrayal is that we got to see how his Batman came to be. With all the other live action takes on the character, we only really get flashbacks and glimpses of his past trauma, and it's sort of up to us to fill in the gaps between him as a grieving child and him as a man who dresses up like a bat to fight crime, which is admittedly a pretty big leap. But in Batman Begins, we get to see Christian Bale throw himself into the mud with criminals in order to learn how these types of organizations operate, which is just badass. And Ra's al Ghul was the perfect bad guy to kick things off with. Ra's teaches Bruce everything he knows, and through watching Bruce train with the League of Shadows, we get to finally see Bruce slowly becoming Batman right before our very eyes. And one Ra's al Ghul quote that has always stuck with me is, "To manipulate the fear in others, you must first master your own. Are you ready to begin? Death does not wait for you to be ready. Death is not considerate or fair. And make no mistake, here you face death." And the reason that this has always stuck with me is the fact that weaponizing fear is really the core of what Batman does. And it's wildly fascinating that a villain was actually the one who taught Bruce how to do this. And on top of this interesting development, the ironic distinction between Ra's and Batman is actually that Bruce is not willing to inflict death upon others. While he has no fear of facing death himself, he has no desire to play God or determine who gets to live or die. And in getting to see the formation of Batman, his training and his interactions with Ra's, we really get the best explanation and understanding of Batman's no-killing rule. Because if he were willing to take a life, as Ra's wants him to be, then he'd really be no better than the man who killed his parents. And this unwillingness to take a life is carried over into The Dark Knight so beautifully, because the Joker is dead set on making Bruce break this rule. In The Dark Knight, where I think Christian Bale really shines is in showing his frustration with the Joker. You see, he was able to understand Ra's al Ghul on a psychological level, which is partially why he was able to defeat him, but he can't understand the Joker. And the fact that the Joker is willing to kill others, and Batman isn't, gives the Joker a massive advantage in their battle for Gotham. Bruce, as we saw in Christian Bale's first outing, was trained to weaponize fear. But since he isn't willing to actually pull the trigger, the Joker actually creates superior fear by simply being willing to cross that line. And Bale does a great job of showing his frustrations with the Clown Prince of Crime slowly building, ultimately reaching a boiling point in the iconic jail scene where he just beats the shit out of the Joker. And to me, this is pretty quintessential Batman, as the rule about not killing others is one of the most important facets of his character. And while I'm not a big fan of the rule personally, as I think it's built on a bit of a fallacy, Batman Begins does a great job of establishing this rule, and The Dark Knight truly puts it and Batman's morals to the test. And throughout both films, Christian Bale is acting his ass off. The Dark Knight Rises, while in my opinion being the worst film in this trilogy, might actually be Christian Bale's best performance as this legendary character. And I say that because I think emotionally he might have his best character arc in this film. In some ways, it's kind of a Rocky 3 type of journey for Bruce Wayne. He's older, past his prime, but he sees a young brolic Bane and he wants to test himself once again. And he gets his ass kicked and back broken. And this was the first and really only time that we had seen Batman be beaten in such a brutal and emphatic fashion on the big screen. He didn't even come close to defeating Bane, and his city will now have to pay the price. And seeing Bruce have to build himself back up from a figuratively and literally broken man is just incredible, and the sequence where Christian Bale is slowly training and regaining his strength is so standout to me, because he does it all without any tools or gadgets, or his Batman suit. He does it all with his bare hands and his incredible willpower. And this unbreakable will is truly what makes Batman special. While yes, his gadgets and boatload of cash are extremely helpful to his crime fighting, all of the tools in the world pale in importance to his unbreakable will. And I love that this final outing took the time to show us exactly how Batman would respond to failure. And I think Christian Bale does a great job of demonstrating his desire to rise up and defend his city throughout the movie. Outside of the performances themselves, I think we also need to put some respect on Christian Bale's name for his commitment to this role. I mean, he lost about 60 pounds to play his role in The Machinist, and then in less than a year's time had to re-bulk up to try to put on 100 pounds of muscle to play Batman. In fact, he put on so much muscle that he actually had to cut some weight for Batman Begins because he got too shredded. I mean, the discipline needed to pull this off is simply insane, and I already know that some people are going to insist that he was on steroids to help with the bulking process, and to be fair, we'll probably never know if he actually was or not, but even if he was, that doesn't just magically add or remove weight from your body. You still need extreme discipline in order to train and eat properly to see these kinds of results. And just as a last point from Mr. Bale, in many ways the Dark Knight trilogy legitimized comic book films in the eyes of critics. Without these dark, gritty, and grounded comic adaptations, we might have never seen a comic book film get nominated for Best Picture or Best Actor. And granted, not all of this credit should go to Christian Bale, as it truly takes an army to make a film, but if you're still a hater of his, I think you need to put some goddamn respect on his name. Well, if you made it this far, please let me know in the comments. Do you agree with me and think Christian Bale did a great job portraying Batman? Or do you think I'm wrong and just can't get past his horrible Batman voice? If you enjoyed this video, please feel free to drop a like, subscribe, or check out some of my other content. I've made quite a few Batman videos, so you might just find something you like. Until next time, peace.